2024 has been pretty tough for the tech job market. Many people who are new to the job market or are impacted in the recent layoffs are having a hard time finding new roles in tech today. So in this video, I wanted to show you that if you are having a hard time finding a tech job today, you are not alone. There are tens of thousands of people who are going through the same journey. Let's take an example of Jeremy, who explained in this video that after applying for 1500 applications over the course of 10 plus months, he still did not find a new job. In this video, I'll also do a deep dive into why the tech job market is pretty tight right now and what the future looks like. And most importantly, if you are having a hard time finding a tech job today, what you can do to increase your odds of landing a job. So let's jump right in. Understand the tough tech job market today. Let's start the story from 2019. This is pre-pandemic area. Things were going as usual. There were many job opportunities and a very healthy talent pool available to fulfill those jobs. This is what we call the state of market equilibrium, when the demand and supply, they almost matches. As for the kind of candidates available, most of them were new grads who were trying to land their first tech job, and then some of them were experienced people who have left their prior jobs and then are trying to find a new one. The equation on both sides was almost equal, and there are many people who would leave the job and become a candidate again and then find a job and land it there. So this was 2019 pre-pandemic era. But in the start of the year 2020, we saw that pandemic happened. Though the stock market initially crashed, and as a result of that, Fed decreased their interest rates almost to zero, which led to a huge supply of money, and individuals and companies started getting a lot of funds from the federal government. With this easy access to money, a lot of companies saw a boom in their usage, and the tech industry just boomed overnight. And what we were seeing previously as 100% demand, it pretty much increased to 230%. So fast forward to 2022, companies were hiring like crazy. There was just so much demand for software engineers and not much supply. Now, to fulfill this demand, a lot of new boot camps started, which started producing new graduates who did not have prior tech experience but were given very specialized training to fulfill certain kind of roles. And since the job market was very hungry to absorb everyone, we saw that a lot of these bootcamp graduates had no difficulty finding a new job, and also the hiring managers were pretty satisfied with their performance. There was so much demand for software engineers during 2022 that many people started doing 2 or 3 jobs at a time. Since most jobs were remote and employers had no way of knowing that the same employer is doing 2, 3, or sometimes even more jobs. So in this era, we saw a lot of demand and not enough supply, and everyone was trying really hard to hire new software engineers. But by the end of the 2022, we saw that the Fed started increasing the interest rates, and companies who were initially expecting the same level of growth in their usage as they had seen during the pandemic realized that their growth was just temporary. So they started doing a lot of layoffs. And also they stopped hiring. Fast forward to 2024, we see that the number of available jobs, it has shrunk from 230% as compared to pre-pandemic era to now only 70%. So the number of available jobs have decreased a lot. We are also seeing that a lot of those boot camps are still producing graduates, and there is a big chunk of new candidates who become available because of the recent mass layoffs. So the equation from 2022 to 2024 completely switched. Now we have a big pool of candidates but not enough jobs to absorb those candidates. And when we look at the pool of available candidates, we see that it roughly falls into 3 categories. There are experienced people who have been laid off or are looking for new roles. There are new graduates who have completed some computer science degrees from universities. And then there are bootcamp graduates. And when we look at these jobs, the preference for the hiring managers, usually they give more preference to people who already have experience. The second priority is given to computer science fresh graduates, and the third priority is given to bootcamp graduates or people who are self-taught. So this is where we stand today. Now looking forward, I think that some things will change and will eventually attain that state of equilibrium again. I think by the summer of 2025, when Fed has decreased the interest rate by certain points, we'll see hiring increases. And I think it'll go beyond 100% to somewhere about 120 to 130%. So there will be much more jobs than we have today. Almost the double. We can already see that the mass layoffs have stopped, and most of the experienced people who become available because of these mass layoffs are almost getting absorbed in the tech industry. So this big chunk of experienced people will be absorbed in the next couple of months. The CS graduates coming from the universities will have a hard time landing a job, but most of them will eventually be able to land a job. As for the tech bootcamp graduates, I think they fall into two categories. There are some people who are very good and there are some people who are not so good. The people who are good, after having a hard time, they'll eventually land a job and they'll be absorbed in the tech job market. People who are not so good or not so serious will have a hard time landing a new job, and after struggling for a couple of months or maybe over a year, they'll eventually leave the tech job market. And with this, by the next summer of 2025, hopefully we'll again attain the state of equilibrium where the demand almost matches the supply, and we'll be over the crisis we are currently seeing. Now, coming back to the question of if you are having a hard time finding a new job, what you can do about it, let's look at it on case-by-case basis. So if you are an experienced person, know that you are already in the top of priority when the hiring manager is hiring for new roles. Getting hired is not easy for anyone, but if you have good amount of experience and skill set, just keep applying and eventually you'll land a job. Coming to the second scenario, if you are a CS university graduate, then you should understand that you also have a fair amount of chances of landing a new job. Though, of course, it won't be at par with experienced people, but keep applying and keep sharpening your skill set and eventually you'll land a job. Now, coming to the third scenario, if you are a bootcamp graduate or a self-taught programmer or engineer, then as I said before, there are two kinds of people. One who are very serious about it and become very good at what they know. These people, even after going through a lot of rejections and a hard time, will eventually land a job and you will have a splendid tech career ahead. But tough times like this, they weed out unserious, uncommitted people. So if you are not very good at your skill set, you will have a hard time landing a new job and you'll most likely leave the tech industry altogether. So if you are in this category of bootcamp graduates or self-taught engineers, then make a decision. Either be all in or just leave. And know that if you become all in and become super serious and keep investing in sharpening your skill set, there is no way that you'll remain jobless forever. It just cannot happen. You just have to become so good that they cannot ignore you. I think getting some good, credible certifications is a good path to not only develop your expertise, but also develop some credentials. I've created a separate video on the topic of what I think are the most valuable tech certifications. The link should be somewhere right here. Please check it out. Thank you so much for watching.